everybody and welcome back to the channel. Thanks to the team over at Bombustbee. In today's review, we're going to be taking a look at the newly released DNA Design DK-29 Gearmaster accessory set for the Transformers Kingdom Dinobot, Scorponok and Blackarachnia. Now for those of you looking to add this kit to the collection, it is currently available and in stock right now over at Bombustbee. So for that, of course, I'll be sure to pack a link down in the description box below. Now we actually get one heck of a ton of accessories with this particular pack, so we'll get stuck straight here into the review and of course start off firstly with Dinobot in his Velociraptor mode. Now of course, to begin with, the mode just in general is flawed in pretty much every single aspect. We've got this really ugly region where the butt is concerned, but one of the biggest areas of critique that I and many other reviewers and collectors had would be in regards to kind of the sculpt here of the Velociraptor hand. No matter what way you try to pose them, they look pretty derpy from almost every single angle, as they were unable to be straightened out here at the wrist. So DNA Design have created a pair of their own hands, and these are just so much cooler. So you can see that in regards to sculpt work, pretty much on par with what we've already seen from Hasbro, but in addition to the ball joint, we also do now get a hinge joint, which I personally think is going to make all of the difference. So of course, in order to switch these out, you basically just take the pre-existing wrist, pop this section clean off as it is on a ball joint, and then we can bring in the new components by DNA Design, peg those in, and already what a marked improvement. You can see this is now able to be completely straightened out. We get full rotation here at the wrist, so in addition to that ball joint which can hinge up and down, rotate the full 360, we also do get a hinge joint there at the wrist, which is definitely going to allow you to create a lot more expression with these when in comparison to the stock hands that we already saw with Hasbro. Of course, we'll pop this off just so that you guys can see how both of them look once installed onto the figure. And definitely such a marked improvement. You can have him kind of scratching his head as to where the golden disc is. Does he want to join sides with the Maximals or the Predacons? Overall, definitely super awesome. But I would have loved to have maybe seen an upgrade component to kind of cover up this region and definitely this region. So that pretty much wraps it up for Dinobot where the Velociraptor mode is concerned. Let's get him transformed up into robot mode where he does in fact actually have a lot of firepower which needs to be packed onto him. General Kenobi, Lord Megatron. Very quickly, just before we actually delve into some of the bot mode accessories, I'll very quickly want to show you guys how you can in fact actually store away these brand new Raptor hands, as they are indeed actually a little bit bigger when in comparison to the stock version. So to begin with, you're going to want to bend here as you would on the original version at the elbow. We'll then now want to bend at this wrist joint, and then of course bend here at the hinge joint, and basically you'll just want to push these sections through so that this tab kind of rests in between the middle and the final finger. So just shoot that in there just like so, and that is the storage for the brand new Raptor hand. So to be honest, it really doesn't compromise transformation whatsoever, and why this wasn't something that we saw on the original version by Hasbro and Takara is completely beyond me, as without a shadow of a doubt, these are such a vast improvement when in comparison to what we already saw with the stock release. Now, in regards to his accessories for this mode, of course the original version was already packing pretty much two of his signature weapons, that being this spinning blade and the sword. But in a particular episode of Beast Wars, literally Dinobot turns into Rambo. He's got these ammo belts wrapped around his waist, this awesome shotgun, and that is basically what DNA Design have given him here with this set and a few more accessories. So to begin with, we'll take a look firstly here at some of these ammo belts. You can see these look awesome. They're full of ammunition, looking really awesome. They're completely cast out of PVC material, so super pliable, but the sculpt work actually isn't too bad. You can clearly make out they're supposed to replicate bullets. Now, in regards to their integration, essentially, you're just going to want to wrap them here over the torso, however, ensure that the three hollowed out holes are roughly around about this region, as you will want to peg on some of the pistols later on. We can then just take this section, and basically, you're going to want to push this here through. It can be a little fiddly due to just how flimsy that plastic is. So just poke that section through and hook this section all the way over, just like so. Turn it around so that it looks slightly cleaner and neater from the back, and that is essentially how you do attach one of the ammo belts. I'll very quickly do the other one off camera just to save you guys seeing my pain in fact actually clipping that back section into place. So as you guys can see here, we have both of the ammo belts fully equipped on Dinobot, and already he definitely does look like a force to be reckoned with. Now in regards to actual firepower, included is this massive almost sniper rifle. Now I was very surprised to see just how well detailed this is, and it is in fact actually incredibly accurate to its appearance in the animation. integration, DNA Design certainly have knocked it out of the park where the sculpt work is concerned. You can see here for the barrel, it looks awesome. We do in fact actually have the almost scope here fully sculpted. We've got some nice silver on the side as well as some black, but for the most part it has just been cast out of grey plastic. Now in regards to its integration, you will just want to open up the hands and you'll notice that we've got a port here kind of on the back section of the handle. Once you peg that in, you can see there we've got Dinobot utilizing this sniper. Now sadly, due to the way they've kind of designed this, the sniper is consistently at a rather peculiar angle, so unless you have it in a position which looks something along the lines of this, perhaps he's carrying it through the jungle, it's not going to look natural at all, as you really are unable to pose him with it straightened out or kind of trying to make him look through the scope itself. So I personally would have wished for perhaps this section to have hinged down so that we could have straightened this out for a few different poses if they had just added an additional hinge joint, say around about this region. Personally, I think that overall it would have ended up a lot better than it has. It still looks awesome as a display piece, but practicality wise and just the overall enjoyability factor, I do think is compromised due to the placement there of the peg. But they've also decided to package in what can only be described as a Dinobot Stormbreaker. You can see we've got this really awesome almost wooden handle which is wrapped around what can only be described as what appears to be like stone. Looks really awesome though. I think the sculpt work for the most part looks fantastic. As mentioned previously, you can peg this into either of Dinobot's hands via that peg and port system, and if anything I actually think this here is a little better done than the actual sniper rifle itself. You can see that can be wielded very naturally and actually looks pretty awesome. I'll be sure to post some images at the beginning of this review actually showcasing Dinobot with some of these wicked looking weapons. But something of which I thought was a great inclusion is that for those of you who perhaps weren't able to pick up the Golden Disc exclusive Pterosaur or perhaps even the Autobot Titan class Arc, they have actually packaged in the Golden Disc. Now this is great for those who missed out on some of those official offerings. You can see the sculpt work is actually pretty decent. We've got some really nice details where the front is concerned. It's been painted in a better gold than the official version, and here at the back we do have the Sounds of Earth. Just comparing it here to the release that I believe came out with Pterosaur, you can see that whilst this is slightly better sculpted in regards to the actual surface detailing, I actually don't think this here would be a bad stand-in by any stretch of the imagination. Now considering it's of course circular in design, how have they made it so that Dinobot can hold it? Well, they have included a transparent adapter here, which basically you just want to slide here pretty much over any part of the Golden Disc, and you can see we do have a 5mm peg that will peg into the hand of Dinobot, and I just thought that was so awesome. This is something that Hasbro were unable to do, as these Golden Discs are near enough impossible to get pegged or held by any mainline Transformer. So it's awesome to see that DNA Design have in fact actually included this adapter, and of course you can recreate arguably one of the saddest scenes from Beast Wars, where Dinobot sacrifices himself in order to of course destroy the Golden Disc itself. And for those who perhaps don't want to display it with Dinobot, you are still going to want to keep it attached here to this adapter, but they did include a tripod, so we can just peg that section in, and you can see this almost tripod section will act as a display base, so you can have this actually standing on your shelf. I thought that was a really nice touch by the team over at DNA Design, and once again is an accessory that is pretty hard to obtain officially. Now that is in it for firepower. They have also packaged in 2 pistols, so you can see the sculpt work on these once again actually looks pretty awesome, completely cast out of grey plastic however, so no paint, but definitely look awesome as we just peg them here into the hands. These do in fact actually look slightly more natural when in comparison to the sniper rifle, so that is a slight shame once again that they couldn't have found a better way or a better place to have actually sculpted the peg in for this. But you can see definitely does look pretty awesome. And for those of you who perhaps wanted to fully equip Dinobot like Age of Extinction Hound, we also do get a few other additional adapter components which we can just basically peg here into the side of the pistols. They do go in all the way, and you'll notice how we've got a tiny little ball here at the base that will peg into any of the slots on the ammo belt, so we can just equip that there. Of course, rinse and repeat. Dinobot's a very unstable mainline Transformer, and then just repeat the exact same process here for this side. So just snap that one in there as well. And that is pretty much Dinobot fully maxed out with all of those pretty awesome accessories. Overall, I think it's a very, very impressive kit. Definitely by far one of the best Gear Master accessory packs that DNA Design have brought out as of late. And I really do think creates for a much more badass look from Dinobot. He really does look awesome. It is just kind of that sniper rifle, which is ultimately letting the set down. But as far as the display piece is concerned, I think he looks great. Now, as mentioned previously, we also do get some accessories for both Scorponok and Blackarachnia. So we'll move Dinobot off to the side and of course take a quick look at them. So up next I've brought in both Scorponok and Optimus Primal, as the accessory that we're about to show can in fact actually be used on both of these figures. It is an adapter piece for the Cyber Bee. Now you can see that it doesn't look like anything that we've actually seen in the show, but the sculpt work isn't too bad at all. You can see once again completely cast out of grey, but essentially what this is if you are to take your Cyber Bee from any version of Scorponok, it could be the original version, this Buzzworthy Bumblebee 4-pack, or even the Sandstorm repaint, you are just going to want to shoot this peg into this hollow cavity. And of course in the show, Scorponok does have a Cyber Bee specifically for Optimus Primal, and it does in fact actually tab into the front chest piece. So you can see how we've got a tiny cutout here on the front of Primal. Basically you're just going to want to take this tab and kind of soft tab it into place. Sadly the grip isn't the best, at least here on my copy. It really does just rest in there, which is slightly unfortunate. Doesn't appear as if I'm going to be able to show it off that well on camera, but every so often it does slightly grip it. Nope, sadly it's not just gripping it at all, but anyhow it is intended to attach onto the front section of Optimus Primal, and I think it's a pretty cool accessory, but it would have been even cooler had they just thickened out that tab so that it would have been a secure grip, or maybe even if they had added maybe some circular tabs to perhaps peg into this cylindrical region that we've got on Primal's chest, as this here is just not holding. Oh, there we go, so it has held into place. You can see literally a 1 out of 10 chance of this actually staying in place, but that is the desired effect. The Cyber Bee actually almost magnetizing to the front plate of Primal as seen on the show, and you can recreate where he basically stuns Primal in battle. So I thought that was a nice touch, but it would have been better had this actually stayed permanently attached. Now, in order to showcase some of the storage for this piece, of course, we're just going to want to remove the Cyber Bee. They have designed it in a way so that if you don't actually wish to have it displayed on Scorponok, we can hinge these arms up and take these chest pieces, if they'll open, and basically just stow away this here. So you can see we've got a nice gap in there. You'll just want to take this here, rest this section into place, just like so, and then we can compress the two halves, and that is the weapon storage for that adapter piece for the Cyber Bee. So overall, incredibly simplistic, yet kind of effective. It once again would have been awesome had this actually properly gripped onto Primal's chest piece. Perhaps it's just an isolated issue here on my copy. For those of you who do in fact actually have your own kit, be sure to let me know down in the comment section below as to whether or not yours holds on slightly better than mine. But still, a nice accessory for Scorponok. It maybe would have been awesome had they included some thigh extenders. We know they can do that. We've seen it with Galvatron. We've seen it with the MPM-12 Optimus Prime just to boost Scorponok in terms of scale, but here's hoping that has been saved for a later kit. And so the final accessory that we get included is in fact actually for the Kingdom Blackarachnia, and it's super awesome. This was something that I believe we saw with the Masterpiece, and it's her almost mind-reading, mind-controlling device that we actually see her use quite a lot in the show. Now, it would have been awesome had they included one for Tigatron, and maybe even perhaps that puzzle Megatron head, but nevertheless you can see some pretty nice sculpt work where these almost goggle sections are. You can see some nice green. We do in fact actually have a hose, which does lead to this really awesomely sculpted plug-in device, definitely very spider-like in its design, so I do hope that was their intention. Now, to actually get this onto the head, much like the Scorponok weapon, I just think the tolerances are slightly off. This appears to be a little too tight, at least for my personal copy, and you can see sadly I have dinged up the paint on a few areas on her face, but essentially what they suggest you do is take this, wrap it over the back first, and then just push this section down, and at least on my copy the back tends to peg in, but I just cannot get these front goggles to sit over the face without pushing them way too far down. So for the purposes of this review, just as I don't want to ding up the paint apps any more than this is kind of the desired effect, and overall it's pretty effective. Had this perhaps come in two halves so that you could have split this and then pegged it over the head, I think that perhaps would have worked slightly better than basically just forcing this over the top. And of course something's got to give, either the paint apps or eventually maybe even this breaking, so definitely definitely just take your time, take caution, and don't apply too much pressure. If it is fighting you, then just take it off or create a loose grip like I have here. But this adapter piece is around 5mm port compatible, so we can kind of take it and say softly tab it into a port. It really doesn't work that well, but that there is kind of the effect that you're going for. So you can have Blackarachnia looking into the deep dark secrets of Scorponok, Optimus Primal, Cheetor, and of course whoever she wishes to lay her deadly sights on. And so, some final thoughts for the DNA Design DK-29 Gearmaster accessory set for Kingdom, Dinobot, Scorponok, and Blackarachnia. Overall, I actually think it's one of the better Gearmaster accessory packs that DNA Design have put out as of late. In my opinion, it absolutely obliterates the version that they released for the Studio Series Starscream, Cup, and Hot Rod. I just think the accessories work so much nicer with these characters and do in fact actually add an entirely different look, especially where Dinobot is concerned. I think for the most part, all of the weapons and accessories that have been included for Dinobot work impeccably well. The ammo belts look awesome, the axe looks awesome, the pistols look great, and those brand new upgraded almost Velociraptor claws are just so well done. But I do find the placement of the sniper rifle to be slightly off unless you're having him actually hold it with two hands and you're perhaps trying to create a more realistic pose like he's looking through the scope. It's going to be near enough impossible. That port has just been put way too high, and considering it's at a slight angle, it just doesn't look the best. And I wouldn't complain, but it is super simple to fix. Had they just included an additional hinge joint at the actual grip so that we could have hinged it up and down, it really would have fixed that issue. But other than that, I think the accessories for Dinobot are awesome. As we move on to Scorponok, it's certainly a nice inclusion. It is something that is show accurate. The fact that the Cyber Bee can almost magnetize onto the front chest piece of Optimus Primal, but at least here on my copy, the tolerances appear to be ever so slightly off. It just doesn't have that much of a great grip, which at the end of the day, at least here for me, just makes it pretty much useless, as there is literally a 1 out of 10 chance that it will actually grip that tab. It could just be an isolated issue here on my copy, and for those that have your own kits, I'd definitely love to know whether or not you do suffer the same issues down in the comment section below. And I maybe would have liked to have seen perhaps some thigh extenders for Scorponok. I know there are a lot of collectors, myself included, who think that he's just slightly too stubby, and considering we've seen them include extendable joints with the likes of Galvatron and Prime, I do think it was something they could have done here for Scorponok. But that could be coming out in a future kit. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And then when it comes to that almost mind-reading probe that is designed for Blackarachnia, much like Scorponok, it's a really nicely designed looking accessory. Looks very show accurate, of course, matches what we actually saw from the Masterpiece rendition, but the tolerances are just slightly off. It's near enough impossible to get those goggles properly over her eyes in order to match the look of the instructions without damaging or scratching off some of the paint, or maybe even actually stressing out the plastic. So if you do have that, I personally would not recommend to force it. Something's got to give, either the paint or the plastic of the actual headpiece. So I'm just going to probably display her on the shelf, something along the lines of this, with it just kind of resting over the eyes. It creates the desired effect. Of course, it's not as secure as it would be if I were to apply some pressure, but still I think it's pretty awesome. And for those that do actually get this kit, it pretty much makes that Masterpiece version pretty much useless, as I think the Kingdom Blackarachnia is already a fantastic figure, and to get some additional accessories to better match her show accurate appearance, I think is awesome. So all that being said, definitely by far one of the better Gearmaster accessory packs, but definitely not 100% perfect. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. If there are any of you that are looking to add this kit to the collection, it is currently available and in stock right now over at Bombustbee. So for that, of course, I'll be sure to pack a link down in the description box below. And as always, I thank you guys all so much for watching. Until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.